Hello and welcome back to NoBS. Today we turn to talking about Hollywood and some of their actors who are getting woke and virtue signaling to the max. Specifically, I'm talking about Michael B. Jordan today. This African American actor has been really hyped up the last few years. He's appeared in big hits like Black Panther and the Creed movies, which are sequels to the Rocky boxing films, of course. And in addition, Michael B. Jordan has also been getting woke left and right ever since his rise to fame. He's been talking about these issues. He's also been the subject of controversy. We've covered him in a video previously, actually, where he got in trouble for who he dated, and some of the other people in his community said he should be dating black people instead of white chicks, and he kind of got wrapped up into that. And ever since then, he's kind of been getting woke and virtue signaling, trying to prove he's black, like trying to double down and say, oh, I'm one of the good ones. I'm woke. I'm talking about this stuff and this stuff. And today is really no different. Today's topic is him basically asking for more black people to get hired in Hollywood. This is where it comes from on Twitter. It was an event thing that they posted with a slew of follow-up tweets. It says, Michael B. Jordan calls for Hollywood to commit to black hiring. The Just Mercy star joined protests outside Hollywood's top agencies to call for industry to make a push towards hiring more black creatives in front of and behind the camera. Now, this is another thing that makes sense. The left has been calling for this for years. Basically, they want to put minorities into these big popular positions, and they don't really care about other jobs and equality. They just want to get them into these high profile movie roles. They want to put them on the front of the screen. They want them directing movies, writing them, producing them. But they don't really care so much about, say, being a background actor or doing the lighting or doing the cleaning on the movie set. Someone has to make the food every day. There could be chefs. There's a lot of jobs in Hollywood, a lot of them relating to film, but they don't really care about that. And this reflects on how they go for this whole affirmative action thing altogether. They're always going for the top jobs, and they always look around and say, hey, oh, there's too many white people that are CEOs of companies. We need to get black people in there. But there's just a problem with that, and it's just the way they go about it, and it's not the proper way at all. Like, okay, I can understand this sentiment. You know, if you say you want more of your group in a certain profession, you can actually do that in a not offensive way. But the way they're doing it is not right. So the real way you should be doing it is turning to your own community and saying, hey, let's go and study film and go to these film schools and make ourselves movies more and get ourselves into these roles on our own merit. Like, we should try harder in our places. Like, we should be vying for these roles more. But instead, what they do is they turn to the executives into Hollywood and to the higher ups and say, hey, you got to hire us because we're black. Just because we're black, even if we don't fit the project or we're not the best person for the job. And that's just why these things are messed up, because it's like I said, it's like affirmative action. It's like giving people jobs based on race. And that's just racism. I mean, I don't understand how they don't see that. And I don't understand how they don't see the other implication of this. I mean, the other implication is that the people that are in these jobs aren't there in fair ways. They don't deserve them. I mean, they're trying to say they should have more black people. That means there's too many white people, essentially. And that implies that they're not earning their jobs. They're not good at them. They're getting hired because of some racism that's not proven. And basically, these guys are just misunderstanding the whole thing that's going on. Like, they look at a group and they say, hey, there's too many white people in that group, in the group of, say, best directors in Hollywood. And they think that's because of racism. And it's because that's the way it is. These are the best directors. These happen to be white people. We're in a majority white country. That pretty much makes sense. But they don't understand that. They don't want to hear that. And they don't want to admit that there's other places where their groups can excel. There's other places where blacks have the top spots. Like, for example, a lot of sports, basketball, football, they all have a lot of black people on the courts. And do anyone want to go to those sports and say, hey, the NBA has too many black people, like, let's get some more white people on the MVP list or in the All-Star games? It's like, no, that doesn't make sense, because, you know, this is all about a sport. You got to be the best, and the people that play best move to the top. And really, that's what's happening in these other companies too. Granted, it's not as clear cut. It's not a sport where you have a score and a referee and a clock, and, you know, you can really tell who wins at the end of each game. It's not as clear cut as a professional sport, but it is there when you're in a field like, say, Hollywood is what we're talking about today, but you could be working in banking, or you could be working in PR, or you could be working in whatever, customer service, food in restaurants. Like all these places have competition. All these places have fair and level playing fields in America. I mean, there's no racism in law, in rule. There's no racism like enacted by authorities officially or anything like that. Like the only racism I see here is black people calling out whites, demanding our jobs, saying that we're unfairly in there, and then kind of pushing themselves in. And really, you can just see that they're just trying to make themselves more money. The first tweet says, E-Talk claims Michael B. Jordan is calling for Hollywood to commit to black hiring. Details on his powerful speech here. So I love how it says he joined this anti-racism march in Hollywood, but I mean, Black Lives Matter is a pretty racist organization. They obviously don't like white people. This sign says Jesus isn't white. Like they're going after our icons and our jobs, and they're kind of come after us in our own area too. I mean, I don't think we own the place, but like they're minorities in a majority white country. That's the problem too. That's where they get a lot of their anger from, is like they're just uncomfortable with that. They can't handle being a lesser group, not lesser in any quality or anything, just numbers. We're talking about numbers. We're not talking about anything wrong with any groups. No one's racist here. No one's saying this group is better than this group. It's just a numbers thing. And apparently these minority communities, they're not comfortable with being a minority. They want to be the majority. They want to be in everything. They want to see themselves in everything. And that's why it really just seems like almost like a separatist movement, because they're clearly not happy here. I mean, this has been hundreds of years happening, and these protests have been going on year after year. And in the present, I mean, there's really no racism to be protesting. That's the thing I don't get. They act like everything's so racist, but I haven't seen any examples, like none. I haven't seen any racism besides coming from them and besides them hating on white people. I know they want to say a lot of these problems and these, like this Minneapolis event was racist or this other arrest was racist, but I've never seen any racism proven. I mean, I think their level and their definition of racism is so low, like the bar is so low, it's not even worth considering. I mean, basically they say if something bad happens to a black person, it's racist. If a black person doesn't like something that happens and they call it out, that's racist too. I mean, their level of entry is very, very low. There's no rhyme or reason to it. It's just basically black people can say whatever they want is racist. And that's why it's just baloney for this whole protest and this whole movement and everything. It's just based on a lie. It's not really productive. It's negative, and it's turning people against each other. And it's just race baiting all over again. This says, where is the challenge to commit to black hiring, black content led by black executives, black consultants? Are you policing our storytelling as well? Let us bring darkness to the light. Michael B. Jordan, this is part of his speech. And I think these pictures are very interesting because they turn them to black and white. And I'm not sure if this is actually from era. No, this is from the present. I see a BLM poster in there. So they black and white photographed these. And that tells me something really big, because we've talked about this side of it before. And basically, this is them trying to make their own civil rights movement. Like they want to be in like this kind of movement. They want to be heroes. They want to save the world. And they picture themselves as these 1960s activists who actually had things to fight for. They actually were fighting racism 60 years ago. There was some things and issues and certain things, laws that got passed, civil rights movement, all that stuff. That was important back then. And the problem with now is they don't have as much racism to fight. They don't have hardly any points at all. Like there's nothing they can't do. There's no denying them any rights or roles or anything. I mean, Michael B. Jordan is this giant millionaire who has been in Hollywood movies for years. He's been greatly privileged, greatly lauded and supported and given all the money and, awards and all that stuff. So that's not the problem. They're not getting oppressed. They're just making up racism, and they're finding events that they turn into race baiting scenarios. And that way they can pretend to be heroes. And that's why they black and white these photos. These are regular photos. They could have been in color, but they turn them black and white because they want to reflect on and act like they're back in time in the civil rights moments, back in the history books. They try to pretend that they're more important than they actually are. Okay, next we got a video clip of his speech. Let's check this out.
I had the opportunity to embody who he was. He got the opportunity to feel the pain of his family, of his daughter, of his mother. I lived with that for a really long time. It weighs on me. I also played a fireman in Fahrenheit 451 who was thirsting for knowledge. He joined the revolution. So producing that movie made me really realize that.
So right out the gate, I could just see this privileged actor kind of preaching to a crowd of people, trying to act like he's one of them when he's not. I mean, he's already on stage, he's already speaking. I don't know what's up with these leather gloves. He's looking like he's even trying to dress like he's in the past, like in the civil rights era. And I just see this as like a LARP. They're LARPing, they're kind of live action role playing, pretending they're these activists and they have these things to fight when really there's nothing there. Like we said, I mean, where are the examples? I'd love to hear them. If you guys got something I'm missing, definitely comment it below. But all I've seen is this one Minneapolis incident that was terrible. Everyone is agreement on that. No racism involved, though. Multiple races involved, that's true. But we had 5 different races in that incident and no proof of any bias. Like it was just a mix of a lot of different people living in Minneapolis and something went wrong. And because the black person's a victim, they call that racism. And that's just insulting and really a perversion of the word. And it just goes to show they don't understand how the things were really bad back in the day. Like real racism was like, oh, you got beat up because you're black, and the people would run you down with their cars and call you names like racial slurs. Like there is real racism out there, and it happened way in the past. And that's why these guys try to LARP and pretend they're in the past, because they can't find any racism in the present, and they just have to exaggerate things, misinterpret them, and then they make their demands. That's the other thing. They're ready for the demands. You notice that? Like we're already at the point where they're like, they couldn't even identify the problem. They couldn't even give us an issue or some evidence or anything. They're just automatically like, all right, now we want jobs. We want to be in all the Hollywood movies. You got to give us all the top parts. So we don't care about the lower ones. You guys can do that bull crap. You can clean up. You can make the food. We don't want any mid-level jobs. We want the top CEO spots, directors, lead actors. They want all of that, and they want it over nothing. They just think, oh, because I'm a certain race, I should get it. Like, what is the whole thing? Like, why do they think they're so special? I know they call themselves minority, and they say we're the smaller group that's within the country, but that's not like them saying they're better than us is just as bad as their claim that we think we're better than them. I don't think that. I don't see a lot of people talking about this kind of racism and being pro, white or whatever other race. It's just the black people that are like all about themselves and hating on others and trying to put themselves in these positions of power. That about wraps things up. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Make sure you comment your thoughts and everything below. Also hit that like button to get this video shared. And until next time, you guys have a great day.